So I want to start with some psychological research. And in psychology, and a lot of research which I've read over the last 10 days, which was part of what I've been doing, is they've proven that as human beings, it doesn't matter whether you're a believer, a Christian, a Muslim, a Hindu, or we've got no faith. It doesn't matter who you are. As a man, as a woman, as a human being, we are all driven by what some experts call human needs. In other words, every decision that you make, everything that you decide to do, everything that you've done in your life, everything that you will choose to do in your life, will be an attempt to meet some of these needs in our lives. Now, some of us aren't even aware of what these needs are, so we just go about our days and we just think that everything we do is random or everything we do is just by default. But in a sense, what you do, and that is what makes us different, is we're all driven by different human needs. So even though there's only a limited amount of human needs, we all value these needs differently. Some of us value something like love more than something else. Significance as an example. And because we value it differently, we've got different lives, we make different decisions, we pursue different things, we hold certain things more valuable than other things. But one of these needs that research has shown that is a very important need for us all is the need, what some call the need for control. Other people call it the need for certainty. And what this means is, as human beings, we all have this inner drive, this inner need to have control over our worlds in some way or another. It doesn't matter whether you're a great, beautiful, awesome person or whether you're scum of the earth. It doesn't matter. We all have this need to control our environments or control our world around us. And we all have this need to have some form of certainty in our lives. Just imagine or think back to some of the times when you were very uncertain, times when you felt completely out of control, when you didn't know what the future was going to hold for you, you didn't know what was going to happen. Just think back to that time and you'll realize just the turmoil you went through and the emotions you felt, and your life was in a sense in disarray, so to speak. Peace, in a sense, eluded your life in that time. Isn't that true? And so ultimately, as people, we want control. Now, some people go overboard with this, and I know people like this, where they become what we call control freaks. And so they go overboard with this idea, and they want to control everything in their lives, even their spiritual lives, even God sometimes. And unfortunately, when the thing of this need of certainty works, when it works well in our lives, it works beautifully. And so we have the sense that we feel certainty in our lives, we have control over what we do, and we have control over our decisions and all these things we do in our lives every day. But when this need doesn't work well, when we have uncertainty, when we lack control or feel we lack control, or we try and control all the wrong things in life, usually that ends up giving us a range of issues and problems in our lives. Now, here's a couple of problems that you and I tend to experience when we try and control things. Now, keep in mind that we all have this need. None of us can sit back and say, nah, that doesn't apply to me, because we all have it. It doesn't matter what you think of yourself today. If you call yourself a human being, you have this need to control your environment, to control your world. It's just inherent. It's just what it is. Now, some people, unfortunately, go overboard with this, and when we then try and control things that, we shouldn't control, or things that we cannot control, there's a couple of things that tend to happen. One of them is what is nowadays called stress. So people live in a constant state of stress. Some people are always stressed out about stuff. Some people are always anxious about things. Some people get what we call panic attacks. Other people live in a state of depression. Other people are sort of fearful about everything. They kind of live in this constant, perpetual state of fear. Other people are just frustrated or angry with life because nothing seems to go their way. Now, all these things are just basically versions of the same underlying issue, which is, as humans, we want to control things. Now, the reality is, however, and this is where I want to start sort of getting into more some spiritual principles for you this morning. The reality is that there's actually only two things that you and I do control. The irony is that you and I try and control everything else but those two things. Now, I've sat down with many people in pastoral counseling, and I've been in ministry for more than a decade, and I've seen people in professional counseling and also in coaching, and I see this thing even in my own life happen over and over and over again, is that there's only two things that you and I really control in our lives, and Scripture talks about those things. And if you want to allow peace to flow into your life, you want happiness to flow into your life, you need to really get these two things and let everything else be. Now, here are the two things that you and I actually control. The only two things. And if what you're trying to control in your life right now is not on this list, chances are that you are either experiencing some unhappiness or times of unpeace or a lack of peace or times of frustration or times of anger or whatever it might be. The first thing that you do control is your thoughts, your thinking. That's the only thing you control, is how you think about things, what you think about, what you focus on. Yet all these things that we hold in our minds, that is what you control. Nobody else controls that. Now, other people give in, try and influence it. Our environment influences. When you come in here, I try and influence your thoughts also. When we sing things, obviously that influences your thoughts. But at the end of the day, you decide what you think. You decide what you want to focus on. You decide if you want to think about any of this at all. And sometimes I can see when the lights go off, when you're sitting there, and I know that you're not thinking about any of this. But you control your thinking. The second thing that you control is your decisions, your choices. Nobody else determines, or nobody else really has control over your choices. Now, some people go, no, my environment has control over my choices. What happens in the world, what happens in my life, that determines my choices. No, you can still choose what you want to do with whatever the world throws at you. If illness comes your way, you have one of two choices. You can give in, like many people do, or you can fight back tooth and nail. When something unhappy or something bad happens in your life, you can sit back and say, well, that's me, I'm out of here. Or you can say, you know what, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to give this thing a go. You choose what you do with whatever comes into your life. So two things you control is your decisions, or your thoughts, and your decisions, your choices. The irony, as I said earlier, however, is that as people, we try and control everything else in life. We try and control our wives, we try and control our husbands, we try and control our government, we try and control our friends, we try and control our church, we try and control our minister, we try and control our fellow brothers and sisters, we try and control our elders, we try and control our dogs and our cats and our children, we try and control God even at times. I don't know if you've ever done that. I have. It doesn't work out that great, but sometimes we do it. And the result is almost always the same thing. We either end up with either stressing ourselves out or being in a state of anxiety and worry or a state of fear or a state of frustration and anger because the world does not want to bend to my will. And peace keeps escaping us. Now, I want you to hear me right now. I wrote down a couple of key ideas that I'm going to actually read out to you because it's so important that I want you to hear them. If you want peace, and when I talk about peace, I'm really talking about how Scripture understands peace, the word of shalom, which really means restoration and healing in your life. When you want peace to flow into your relationship with God, meaning healing, or if you want peace to flow into your marriage, meaning healing and restoration and happiness to flow into your marriage or into your home life or into your workplace or into your business or whatever it is, wherever you are, if you want peace to flow into those environments, if you want peace to flow into you because you're in those environments, you have and you must have and must do two things. The first thing that you absolutely must have and strive for and work towards and pray for and just really spend a lot of time on is getting what I call a transformed mind or transformed thinking, transformed thoughts. That's why the Apostle Paul wrote in Romans 12, let God transform your lives by renewing your mind, the way that you think. Pray to the Spirit so that He will change your attitude and your mind. Ultimately, everything that you and I do, everything starts with the way we think about the world, the way we think about life. Your happiness and what you're feeling, the peace that you might have in your life right now, or the peace that's escaping your life or your marriage or your business or your parenting or whatever it might be, is the result of you holding on to certain thoughts and a mindset that is not serving your life. And if you want that to change, the first thing you must have is to get a transformed mind. And you have to do everything that you can and work hard at it and pray hard at it and allow the Spirit to do whatever He needs to do to change the way that you think, because until you do that, you will keep getting the same result in your life. It doesn't matter what life throws at you. The second thing that you absolutely need is what I call inspired choices. And what I mean by inspired choices is that the moment your mind starts shifting, and I've experienced this in my own life at times, the moment God starts changing the way you view things, the moment God starts changing or shifting anything, the way you think about life, about God, about you, about your past, about your present, your future, other people, this country, other nations, other races, other sexualities, doesn't matter what we're talking about, the moment God starts shifting your thoughts and how you're thinking about things, your decisions and the choices you make start shifting also. And it's automatic. Because when new wine is being poured into a new wineskin, obviously it's a new result, isn't it? But when you try and pour new wine into an old wineskin, it just bursts the wineskin, doesn't it? Isn't that what Jesus teaches us? So the wineskin needs to be replaced, new thoughts, but then new wine has to come from within. Ultimately, we need to make some new choices, new decisions. Even Jesus said that I only do what I see the Father doing. Even Jesus was inspired in his actions and the choices and stuff he made. Why are we any different? Now, sometimes you and I are open for getting a new mind, but then we're closed off with the idea, no, I want to keep making the same decisions. Yeah, God, come and change my mind, but I'm going to stay angry as at that useless husband of mine who's just sitting on the couch and had been sitting on the couch for the last 30 years and making my life miserable. And we're wondering why we're not moving in our lives, God, come and change my thinking, but I'm going to stay angry at you for taking my wife away 20 years ago. I want to go into a new season with you, change my thoughts, but I'm going to keep this decision I'm going to keep. I'm going to choose to stay here, but you can have the rest. And we wonder why there's always this one area in our life that doesn't want to heal, that doesn't want to have peace, that doesn't want to move forward. If you want to have peace in your life, if you want to have new strength in your life, if you want your life to start moving forward in a peaceful, happy way, you have to have those two things. I came to the conclusion over these last 10 days, is a renewed mind, but also inspired choices, meaning choices that are literally made in spirit. Now, as you know, many of us are unfortunately being defined by our past. Many of us sitting here and other people out there, many of us, our thoughts and our choices are still being defined and being driven not by now or not by God's Spirit, but by the past, by something of the past. Maybe a label that was placed on you when you were 10, or a label that was placed on you in a bad or a very stressful or sticky type of season in your life. Maybe by other people right now, maybe by your environment, maybe by your circumstances. A lot of us are being defined by our past. But I want to challenge you, if you truly want to have peace and happiness and healing in your life, you need to let yesterday go and allow God to redefine you today. And that is what I want to leave with you today, that idea. So, over the last 10 days, I was, as you know, we were on a cruise. We went to New Caledonia, Vanuatu, Mystery Island, Lifu, all those places. And we had pretty good weather. There were a couple of days that were a bit, shaky and wobbly and swingy for a guy that loves land. But one of the things that were constant I discovered on the boat, on the ship, was if you went to the side of the boat or the ship, or you went to the back of the ship, there's something that you always saw. Do you know what that was? Apart from water, something in the water. The wake of the boat. Doesn't matter where we went, doesn't matter whether we went slowly, whether we went fast, doesn't matter whether the weather was playing up a little bit, whether it was great weather, there was always a wake. As long as the ship kept moving forward, there was always a wake behind the boat. And I started thinking about this, and ironically, I read a lot of things over the last 10 days, and one of the authors I read actually spoke about this very idea, and that's how I knew I needed to come and share this idea with you. And this author asked this very important question. He said, if you look at behind a ship, there's a wake. There's always a wake. As long as the ship keeps moving forward, there's always a wake. There's always white, foamy froth behind and alongside the boat. There's always a wake. But the question is, what is it that's actually moving the ship forward? Is it the constant, perpetuous presence of the wake? Is it the wake that moves the ship forward? Or is it actually the present power and energy of the engine in the engine room of the ship? Which one is moving the ship forward? And of course, no rational individual would say, well, it's the wake of the boat that moves the boat forward, because it's not. The wake is simply the trail that's always behind anything that moves forward. A wake is simply the trail that's always behind the ship that keeps moving forward. But it's the engine that actually drives the ship forward. The wake is only the consequence of it. Your life and my life has a wake. As long as you and I keep moving in our lives, it has a wake. Your spiritual life has a wake. Your marriage has a wake. Your health has a wake. Your parenting has a wake. Your business and how you do business, how you conduct yourself in this world has a wake. Yesterday is part of your wake. But it doesn't drive your life forward. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. A lot of people think that it's the wake of the ship that actually drives and moves their ship forward. So as long as they can keep scooping some of the wake into their boat, the ship will keep moving forward. But all you're doing is sinking your own ship. And I wrote this thing down, and I want to read this. Your life has a wake, but it's only the trail of your life. But that wake, it is not in any logical way responsible for how you are experiencing or doing life right now. Now, some people, when they hear this, they go up in arms. And some people resist this with everything they have, because some people want to hold on to the past. Some people want the wake to define them because it gives them purpose and it gives them some form of identity. It gives them something. But I want to break that for you today, because that's the only way that you're going to start moving forward in your marriage, even if you're still stuck in your marriage with that horrible husband. That's the only way that you're actually going to start seeing that husband in a new way. It's the only way you're going to start seeing that marriage in a new way. It's the only way you're going to start seeing yourself in a new way and actually start moving in the right direction, or just start moving full stop. You need to realize that your wake is just part of your trail. It's part of yesterday. Even the wake of this morning is just part of what is already gone. But it does not drive or define your life right now unless you allow it to do that. And unless you are like some people who are leaning over the ship, the side of the ship, and scooping some of the wake into the boat, hoping it'll go faster. Now there's this awesome story in the scriptures. It's an old story. And I thought about it yesterday, actually. I'm going to give you the short version. You can go and read it in Genesis 19. So Lot was living in the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. And God said he looked at these cities and they were despicable, and he's going to wipe them. He was going to wipe them off the face of the earth. And so God sent a couple of angels to Lot and tell him to get out of these cities, or out of the city, because he's going to wipe it off the face of the earth. And so Lot, he didn't want to go because I don't know where to go, and I gave everything up, and I'm living here, and this is kind of my life, and well, poor me. And the angel said to him, no, you have to go. You have to take your daughters and your wife, and you need to go, and you don't look back. And so Lot sort of wheeled and dealed with these angels, and he made a couple of, things, and he said, okay, but I don't have anywhere to go, so can I go to that small town over there, and can you just save that town also? And the angel said, okay, it's fine, you can go there, but you have to go there because we can't start our thing until you're at that town, and then we'll start, but you have to go and don't look back. And so Lot was, in a state, and he tried to negotiate with the people that turned up at his house. You can go and read the story. Long story short, he eventually got up and he left with his family. But the story goes that as they were fleeing, his wife turned around and looked back as the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were being destroyed, and she turned into a pillar of salt. And I thought about this story, and I asked myself, why is it that as people, we love looking back, even though we know that we might turn into pillars of salt, so to speak? Why is it that in our marriages, we know that in order for my marriage to move forward, I need to let some things go and let some things be in the past that need to be in the past, but I keep looking back, even though I know by doing that it might turn my marriage into a pillar of salt? Why is it that we do this in our lives? Why is it that we allow other people to make us keep turning around and looking at those things that keep us stuck right now, right here? Not allowing God to work through us, because God gave us free will. He's not just going to come and take control of you and make you do things. Why is it that we keep looking back? And I want to read you something else, and it's so important. I want you to at least write it down or try and remember it. But this will explain to you a lot of your own life and a lot of other people's lives. It's coming back to psychology. It comes back to that need of certainty. And this blew my mind when I learned this the first time, and I realized why it is that for a big part of my life I was on a Ferris wheel, so to speak, like a hamster running on a hamster wheel. Not a Ferris wheel, that's too big. See, people love looking back. And perhaps you in your life are looking back because people would rather choose the pain of certainty than risk the uncertainty of freedom. And I'll explain what I mean by that. When I came to New Zealand almost 8 years ago, I went to Hawke's Bay and had a congregation there that wanted to see me. I had some interview there. And I spent 2 days there, and at the end of the second day they said, you've got the job, we want you. But at that stage I've only been in New Zealand for less than a month. I knew no one. I had no family here. My wife wasn't here yet. My little Daniel wasn't here yet. I had no one. I only had my friend in Upper Hutt. That's the only person I knew. And a few other Kiwis I met along the way, of course. But nothing was familiar to me. And these guys gave me this ministry. They gave me this thing and said, you can have it. It's fine. You've got to show me the house, everything. You can have it. You just need to decide. Do you know what I decided to do? I decided to get in my car and drive back over the Rimutakas and all those mountains and down Hawke's Bay, back to Upper Hutt into a smaller room, because my mate lived in a very small house at that stage with his wife, and a smaller room. And even though I knew that that wasn't going to move my life and future forward in New Zealand, I opted for that room. Why? Because it was certain, and I knew it, and I had control over that environment, and I didn't want to risk the uncertainty of what this other life could mean to me. And that's why people keep looking back. That's why you might be keep looking back in your life also. It's because even though the thing that you're looking back to is painful, at least you know it. And so many people get stuck in this where they can't step out in faith. They can't step forward in their lives because it's uncertain. There's too many questions. They don't know. And so as people, we opt for what we know, even though it's hurting us. But if you want to be free, you've got to understand your freedom, your spiritual freedom, and your life's freedom is not in the past. Your peace is not in the past. Your happiness does not lie in the past. The good old days, they weren't that great. It's not in the past. Your joy is not in the past. Your peace is not in the past. Your courageous faith is not in the past. It is now. Because it is here and now that you and I live and move forward. I want you to look around. I don't know if you've seen this poster, but there's a reason why I put this poster up a long time ago, and it's that one in the corner there that says, "Let God define you." A lot of us go through life allowing our past to define us, allow our stories to define us, allow our stories and our past to define our present, our life right now, our relationship with God right now. We allow other people from our past that might still be part of our present to allow to define who we are in the Lord or who we want to be in Him. Let God define you. If there's one thing I want to give you today when you walk out of this place, let Him define your life. Let Him define your marriage. Let Him define your future and what you want to do with your life. Choose to have that mindset. Choose to choose that. But you have to claim this. And if you claim this, I want you to do two things. The first one is the moment you claim that for you today, and say, I'm going to allow Him to define my life for not one moment longer. And I'm going to allow my husband or my wife or my children or any of those things, even though they might be great people, to define who I am, to define the life that He gave me, the Creator gave me. I'm going to allow Him to define me and define my relationship with everyone around me, and so on and so on. I want you, if you want to claim that for yourself, do two things. The one is open your mind and allow God to start transforming and growing your mind, because there's no point just claiming that for you, but then walking out of this place exactly the same. You have to allow Him to change something in your thinking. Whether it's thinking differently about your wife or about this church or about your future or about you, you have to open yourself so He can start changing something, or everything will be the same as it's been for the last 70 years. And the second thing that you need to do is, if you claim that for you, is to then lay your decisions bare before His Spirit. It's like David writes in Psalm 139, Lord, you know my heart. Search it and find if there's anything that offends you, and then lead me on the path that is everlasting. Last verse, Psalm 139, you can go and read it. When you allow God to change your mind, He'll also give your choices to Him. And if you know you've been making the wrong choices, if you know you've been cheating people, if you know you've been cheating around, if you know you've been holding back, if you know you've been holding back love or happiness or joy or presence or whatever it might be in your life, that you know you're being convicted of on the inside, but you're hiding it from everyone else, understand what David says. Lord, you know my heart. So search it and then show me, convict me, shed your light on it. And then show me the choices I need to make. And then have the courage to actually follow through on those new choices. But if you're going to keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. Let me close with this reading on my phone. I can be whoever I choose to be today. Who and how I was yesterday has no inherent connection to who and how I choose to be today. My present is not caused by my past, unless I choose that it be so. For in any given moment, regardless of circumstances, I can choose again. I can choose strength instead of weakness and love instead of fear. I can choose to bless instead of blame, and to lean into the future rather than dragging with me the past. The limits of yesterday have no power over the unlimited possibilities of this moment, for in God all things are possible, and in God all things are programmed to be perfect. I make myself available to this moment, allowing the Spirit of God to illuminate my heart. Let's pray, and I'll read you this prayer. Dear God, may this present moment be a holy one, in which nothing but your light shines into my mind and extends through me. Amen. That was written by Mary Ann Williamson.